Hello and welcome to Raw Chatter. I am your host speaking, Vicky Midwood, integrative health, nutrition. Stop. Just cut for a second.
Just kidding.
Hello and welcome to Raw Chatter. I am your host speaking, Vicky Midwood, integrative health, nutrition and lifestyle coach, and of course, the addiction eliminator. And I have got a fantastic guest with me today. She is a lady who I kind of really have an affiliation with because she loves moving her body, but it wasn't always the case. So I'm going to introduce you to Jen Shaver, who is a coach, lifestyle, health, fitness, all that good stuff. And Jen, I would love you to share with our listeners and viewers just what got you into doing what you do now.
Oh, yeah, sure. So I have always been very into fitness, if you will, right? I would always get up and do the exercise videos, right? With back in the day, it was Denise Austin. And so before I would go to work, I would get my Denise Austin workout in. Because I would tape it on the VCR because she was on at a time when I had to leave for work. So I would tape it and do the workout the next day. And, so fitness has always been just a part of my daily routine, along with educating, because my first job was as a Spanish teacher, and I taught Spanish to middle school students. So educating people, I married that with the fitness 20 years later, after my oldest went off to school, and just started teaching middle-aged women how to age successfully, how this time in our life does not have to be the end, right? It's not all downhill from here. We're not over the hill. Life doesn't have to get worse. We don't have to be in pain. We don't have to be suffering. We don't have to feel blah. There are things we can do, and they don't have to be drastic.
And I think what I wanted to kind of clarify with people is you weren't always teaching fitness, because you did start off as a Spanish teacher.
Yeah.
And so the fitness that you did was just really for yourself.
Exactly.
Because you enjoyed it. And obviously you have been through, for people listening who are younger who wonder what recording on a VCR is.
Yeah. Right.
Back in the day, we used to actually have tapes and a video recording machine, because everything wasn't streamed live. But that's showing our age. However, the reason I'm bringing that up is a lot of the stuff back then it was kind of like cardio and feeling the burn, wasn't it?
My gosh.
Right. Whereas what you now know, and also teaching ladies over a certain age, is that it's not all about the cardio, is it?
No. And that's just it. I think there is a mindset for many of us people that are, 40 and above, that this, cardio is the holy grail. And that, it's all about burning the calories. And, if we lift heavy things, we're going to get too bulky. And that just isn't the case. It's so far from the truth. And if we are not lifting heavy things, we are not preparing our bodies as we age. And we're really setting ourselves up for some, difficulties as we age.
Absolutely. So tell us about the kind of people who you tend to work with, who come to you for your expert advice.
A lot of the women that I work with are just busy midlife women. They have families, they have careers. So, some of them are taking care of older adults. And so their health has really taken a back seat. And I help them to kind of bring it to that front seat, because it's so important. You cannot take care of others unless you're taking care of yourself. And, it's important to learn how to do that and make it part of your lifestyle. So it's not this, I got to do one extra thing today. I got all this on my plate, and now I have to do this. And now I teach them how to integrate it into their lives. So that way it just becomes something that they're doing, and it's not like this extra thing.
I think that's such an important thing for people to understand, because the idea that I have to work out, a
Oh,
lot of ladies are still in that old way of thinking that you have to go for a gym, and it has to
yeah,
be like an hour's session, otherwise it doesn't count.
right.
So can we help people to just like, can we bust that myth, Jen,
Oh,
please?
yeah, yeah. That one, that's the, and I really think that that is one of the largest barriers that women face. See, they're all saying, well, I don't have time to work out, because the perception is exactly that. I have to go to the gym and it has to be an hour, and I have to sweat to death, and I have to feel like garbage when I'm done. Otherwise, it just doesn't count. And again, nothing could be farther from the truth, right?
Right, exactly.
We're all busy women. And some days are going to look different than others. So some days that might mean that your workout is 15 minutes, and that's okay. Some days it might mean, wow, I've got 30 minutes. I get to do the whole workout today, and I've got extra time. I can even get in an extra walk today.
Brilliant.
But,
Right.
it's day to day. But if
And
you are,
that's key,
yeah,
isn't it? That
it
it
is.
doesn't have to look the same, and it doesn't have to be the same amount of time every day.
Exactly. And I think that that is the one thing that kind of derails people, is that thinking that it has to be this. And if it's not, then, you know, I'm just not going to do it.
Right.
Well, if you would just say, okay, I've only got 15 minutes today. What can I do in 15 minutes? Can I do some squats while my tea is boiling? Right?
Yeah.
Can I do some counter push-ups, while I'm waiting on the microwave? What can I do, instead of looking, oh, I can't do it? What can I do today? Maybe
And
you can do
that's a
squats while you're
crucial
brushing your teeth.
right. That's a crucial shift though, isn't it? Just
Yeah.
just those words that you just said there.
Hmm.
Just repeat that again, because it's a mindset shift, but it's a really simple one, isn't it?
It is. It is. It's focusing on what I can do and not what I can't do today. So
Yeah.
just because I can't do this quote unquote 60-minute workout, and let's just throw that number away, because it doesn't have to be 60 minutes. It just
Exactly.
doesn't.
And this is where, when I explain this to my clients, the only reason that we have been brainwashed with this 60-minute session is because fitness instructors in gyms used to be
Yeah.
paid per hour. And that is
Yes.
the only reason, no other. It's nothing to do with physiology or science or anything to do with that. It was just based on rates of pay. People were paid per hour, so classes were an hour.
Right. Right. So don't worry about the 60 minutes.
Yeah.
Focus on what can you do? What does your day allow? If you time block, if you look at your day, go one day ahead of time and plan out, what does my day look like tomorrow? Right?
Absolutely.
And then plan it
I
and
think that's
go
a
from
key
there.
thing as well, Jen, because
Yeah.
a lot of ladies, and I'm sure you get this, I haven't got time to plan because I have no time. So
Right.
how do we bust that one? Because that's completely backwards, isn't it?
Right. Right. Well, I mean, again, I say, let's do a time audit, right? How much time are you spending on social media scrolling? And
Right.
if you tell me more than 5 minutes, then guess what? Even if you tell me 5 minutes, I'd rather have you do 5 minutes of squats than 5 minutes of scrolling on social media. Or how much time are you spending watching TV?
Right.
If
Yeah.
you have time to do those two things, then you definitely have time to take care of yourself.
And that's key, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
it's not about exercising for the sake of doing exercise and saying you've done exercise.
No,
It's
it's not a
it's
box that
more
you
than
just
that.
check off. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that self-care piece is something that I'd like to touch on with you, because I think
Mm-hmm.
for women of a certain age,
Mm-hmm.
we're still not quite there yet. I think we've still
Yeah.
got the residual myths floating down from previous generations, where we
Mm-hmm.
still think that taking care of ourselves is somehow selfish.
Right.
And you said earlier that you can't really look after other people unless you're taking care of yourself. But
Right.
help people to understand what actually self-care is, because it's not just not going to have your hair done or your nails done or having a massage, is it?
No, it's not, and I think that that's really the biggest piece, is we need to change our perception of what self-care is, and taking care of your health is part of self-care. How do you take care of your health? Well, you make sure that your fridge is stocked with fruits and vegetables and lean proteins, so that way those foods are available to nourish your body. You make sure that you have time to manage your stress, because that is a huge problem, particularly for midlife women.
Yeah.
We make sure that we have time to sleep.
Right.
Getting that 7 to 9 hours is so important, again, particularly for midlife women. And then finally, make sure that we are preparing our bodies to age by lifting those weights, because we are losing muscle beginning in our 30s. And so if we really look at it, when we say midlife, right, we're talking mid-30s is midlife when you look at what the average lifespan really is.
Yeah.
And so when you hit your 30s, that's when you begin to start to lose that lean muscle. That's when that bone density begins to, start to go down as well. And we know that for women over 50, 50% will experience an osteoporosis related break.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that high. That's really
50% over 50. Well, that is a staggering statistic. So what can you do? What do? I lift some heavy things. And if you don't have a gym, that's okay, because
right.
you look around your house, right?
Yeah.
Around your house, I'm sure you can find some heavy things.
I think that's a really good way of looking at it as well, because people don't kind of connect that if you can move furniture around,
Yeah.
that's lifting a heavy thing,
Yeah.
right? And you don't go, oh, I can't do that because I'm going to get bulky muscles. You
Right.
do it because you want to rearrange the furniture in your room, and you don't give it a second thought. But then suddenly when we put something that is a weight in people's hands, it's kind of like this mental shift that goes, oh.
Right. Right.
And I love what you said about it's lifting heavy things, because I also remember, and we're of a similar age, where it was the little pink
Oh.
0.5 or whatever they were, the tiny little weights and like 20,000 repetitions.
Right.
That is not what we need
No.
to be doing to help with bone density and really longevity. It
Right.
needs to be heavy. Help people to understand, what do we mean by heavy?
Well, we want to be lifting to failure. What does that mean? It means that the last few repetitions that we are doing, our muscles are getting kind of shaky. Now we need to make sure that we're still keeping proper form.
Yeah.
Because that's really the most important thing as we're going through our exercises, is that form, because we don't want to risk injury, right?
Nope.
But that doesn't mean that you cannot lift heavy things. So making sure that those last few repetitions, that your muscles are quote unquote tired.
Right. You can feel them. They should
Yeah.
feel that it's a little bit of a struggle to just
Right.
get out that last one or two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you mentioned there that it's often sort of midlife women. Do you
Mm-hmm.
find that a lot of women are coming with perimenopause type of symptoms, and they're coming to you maybe to lose weight and not recognizing that by exercising in the right way, they can manage that, plus their hormones, mood swings, and all that stuff as well better?
Right. Right. And, again, it goes back to how we have been trained as women through society about cardio. And
Yeah.
so, they'll come to, oh, I'm doing all the things. I'm on the elliptical for an hour. I'm on the treadmill for an hour. And I'm just like, okay, but
Yeah. Get
you
off.
need muscle. And it's the muscle that's going to help you to maintain your healthy weight, not your cardio. Along with the way that our food supply it has changed. It's not the same as it was 20 to 30 years ago. There's
Right.
a lot of, preservatives in foods and chemicals in foods and properties that just, make the less desirable foods more addicting, right? And make you coming back for more. And so it's no fault of their own, right? It's not lack of willpower
No.
that is creating this. It's we need to get rid of those types of foods. We need to put more whole foods in your diet. We need to put more fruits, more vegetables, more lean proteins in your diet. We need to focus on that. And it's amazing, women will do that. And after the first week of doing that, they're like, oh my gosh, my energy. I have so much more energy. My cravings, I don't have any of those cravings. I don't even want that now.
Right.
The
And
one lady was telling me her husband, brought something, some dessert home. She's like, I didn't even want it. She's
right.
like, I, it's not that I wasn't telling myself I can't have it. It's, I just didn't even want it.
And that's such an important thing for people to hear, because it's when you
Yeah.
actually change how you eat on a regular basis,
Mm-hmm.
you naturally lose those cravings. It stops
Right.
being about willpower, doesn't it? And this is
Yes.
where, when you work with doing what your body wants, because we were designed to move, weren't we? We weren't
Yeah.
designed to sit around, but
Right.
also we were designed to fuel ourselves with nutrients as opposed to just calories, energy, which is unfortunately what a
Right.
lot of people are doing.
Uh-huh.
So tell us, how can people kind of know what to do if they're starting out? Because I think that's the hardest thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And if women have never done very much, I mean, you always have, I always have, so it's
Right.
not scary, and we're not kind of, am I doing the right
Right.
thing, and how many do I do? So how do you help people who are brand new to get over the fear of doing it wrong, but
Mm-hmm.
also allowing themselves to pick up a weight that does feel heavy? What do they do, and how do you help them?
Yeah. Well, the first place to start is really with your own body weight, and getting comfortable moving your own body. And then once they're comfortable moving their own body, then we can put some weights in their hands. And, there's several exercises that you can do with weight or without, squats and lunges you can do with or without weight. And they are both effective exercises, and they both train the largest muscle group in our body, right? Our leg muscles, our glutes. And the more muscle we have there, ladies, the better off we're going to be. So it's always best to start with those large muscle groups. And like I said, squats and lunges, we can do those while brushing our teeth.
Right. Exactly. You don't have to. I think this is the other thing as well. They don't have to get changed into specific exercise clothes or be in a
Right.
certain room, do they?
Right. Right. And that's the other thing. That's why I say, you know, by just doing those things, if we just start there, then we can start to build that habit, right?
Yeah. Right.
And now that leads to consistency. And it's consistency doing it over and over and over throughout time. So we can't look at what we're doing. Oh, I'm going on this health and wellness journey as a 28-day, 30-day, 100-day, 2-year. We have to look at it as until I'm 6 feet under.
Yeah. It's a
And
lifestyle.
so, yeah.
Mm.
And so, what can I do that's not drastic, right? And extreme? Because when we go to that drastic or extreme, that's when we end up just pulling the plug and we
Right.
don't keep going. But
And
if
that, I
we,
think, is familiar for a lot of women, isn't it? Is that all or
exactly,
nothing way of
yes,
doing things. And then we fall out
yes,
with ourselves because
mm-hmm.
we can't keep it up, because
Mm-hmm.
we did try to do too much to
Right,
start with. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so if you would just give yourself some grace and start slow, we're all in this overnight results thinking, right?
Yeah.
And we have to be in this for the long haul. I was a marathoner, and I'll tell you, if you start your marathon out and you go out, like a racehorse, that
Yeah.
last 10K is going to be really painful for you. Not that it's not going to be painful anyway, but it's going to be a lot worse.
Yeah.
So you have to look at it like that. You have to start slow, and you have to be okay with it. You can't just say, oh, I got to lose 20 pounds and I got to lose it by next month. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Right.
How
Right.
long
And I
did it
think,
take you to put that on? So let's just back the train up. Let's slow down and let's lose it slowly, because if we lose it slowly, we're going to be able to maintain that weight loss forever.
right. And is that the main reason that people come to you initially? Is it to lose weight, or is it because they come for other things?
It is for weight loss. And then that's when we kind of work on a mindset, because,
Right.
well, yes, having, being at a healthy weight is important. We need to remember that it's not just about that number on the scale.
Yeah.
And that getting to that number on the scale, isn't the end all be all.
Mm.
So I help them to understand, okay, I'm changing my mindset about things. I'm doing this so that way I can have more energy, so I can feel better, so I can move better. So 10 years from now, I can get in and out of a chair. So 10 years from now, I can still travel and do the things that I enjoy. So 10, 15 years down the road, I can play with my grandkids, or, whatever that why for them is. And so often when they first come to me, their why is, I want to lose weight because I want to fit into this pair of jeans or, whatever. Is that really what you want, right?
No,
And
it isn't, is
how, no. And once we really dig deep, they're like, I want this,
Yeah.
and they figure it out, because that type of why is only going to get you so far, and it's not going to sustain you for the rest of your journey.
No, absolutely not. And I
Yeah.
think the key thing is when you feel stronger
Mm-hmm.
physically, it also helps you be stronger mentally, doesn't it?
Right. Right. I mean, there's so many studies that they're coming out with that show the relationship between strength training and mental well-being in terms of, helping with depression and anxiety as well. So it's not just about, quote unquote, looking good. There is so much more to it. And I just, that's what I really want women to understand. There's so much more to doing these things than just the vanity metrics of it. And there's nothing wrong with the vanity metrics. It's that, to each your own. But when you really get real with yourself and ask yourself the really tough question of, okay, what's my real why?
Yeah. That's a
So
great one,
often
isn't
it's
it?
not. Yeah.
Yeah. And each person's going to have their own individual one, which is
Uh-huh.
fantastic because it
Right.
needs to be specific to them to
Mm-hmm.
make it powerful enough, doesn't it?
Right. Right. And that will evolve too.
Yeah.
Your why when you start your journey 5, 10, 15 years down the road, because remember, this journey is long
Forever.
lasting. It's not going anywhere. Your why is going to evolve.
Yeah.
So, and it's important to check in with yourself,
Right.
because, motivation gets you started, but it's not going to
It's
keep
not
you
going to keep you
going.
going. No, and
Yeah.
I think then important on that as well is we can fall into a rut of, okay, I've done the consistency thing and I'm doing my 10 or 15 minutes a day because that fits in and I know that I can do it and I feel good
Mm-hmm.
because I am doing it. But then we end up often doing the stuff that we know, don't we?
Yeah.
And that is something that we're all guilty of. We're humans.
Right.
The brain likes to take the easy way out. It doesn't have to think about it. But
Yeah.
this is where you come in with what you offer, because you can give people that variety and keep them progressing, can't you?
Right. Right. Yeah. It's so important that, to try new things, but to keep the body, moving in different ways as we
Right.
age.
Yeah. And you offer actual videos, don't you, where you
Mm-hmm.
are showing people and they can actually work out with you via a
Mm-hmm.
video, so they can see exactly what is that exercise and how am I meant to be holding the weight and what am I supposed to be doing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I have a monthly program that offers a PDF that gives you the schedule and what to do and when to do it.
Brilliant.
But then there's the exercise video library that shows you what to do so you know what you're doing, right?
Yes, so important, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
that's a big barrier. Because when we
Right.
say squat,
Mm-hmm.
and you will have seen this a million times, and so have I. We use that word, suddenly people do some weird thing.
Right. Right.
Right. And it's just like, hang on, you can sit on the loo, therefore you can squat.
Right, right. And and that's just it. That's one of the most important exercises that people can be doing, but we want to make sure that we are doing it correctly.
Yeah. And that's where your videos come in, and the PDF that you offer lays it out for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes we just need to know that, okay, right, I have a plan here and I've got an idea of what I'm supposed to do and what it's supposed to look like. That's so important from a
Yeah.
safety and okay, I'm kind of being held by my hand, if not literally,
Right.
virtually.
Right, right. Well, because also if you think about it, if you come to me and you say, "Well, Jen, I've been doing this work on this work on this work, and I'm just not seeing any results," well, I say, "Well, that's because you're just doing random workouts, right? You need to have a plan. In
Yeah.
order for anything to work, there has to be progression. There has to be a plan. It can't just be random."
Right. And I think that is again where people feel a little bit scared of committing to
Yeah.
something, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we get them over that? Because I think, particularly as you've said, we don't want it to be another thing that they have to do. And
Right.
you teach them how to fit it into their current lifestyle and schedule. But then how do we keep them committed to wanting to keep on progressing and growing? What do you suggest?
I think so many women that have started the program enjoy how they are now feeling in comparison to how they felt prior to starting the program. And
Right.
so it's like you said, they feel stronger, right? And they're able to do things that, geez, I couldn't do this before I started the program. Now I can do this. So
Right.
that for a lot of them is what keeps them going. Is I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to lose what I have.
Right. Yeah. And that is powerful, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I think, especially as we get much older now, and the general trajectory is that we are living longer overall, but we're not
Right.
necessarily living healthier.
Yeah.
So I think a powerful way for a lot of people would be to live longer, healthier, as opposed to living longer, sicker.
Right. Yeah. It's
But also,
quality of life over
yeah,
quantity of life, right? I mean, how do you want to spend those last 10 years, in bed,
right. And
watching
not
your
being able,
family
yeah,
go do all this stuff while you sit in the corner in your wheelchair watching them?
yeah, no.
You know,
And I think most people will say no, but when we're that little bit younger, we kind of think we're invincible and it's not going to happen
yeah,
to us.
yeah. That's just it. It's so hard to get people to focus that far down the road. But then I always say, well, do you have a retirement plan? Are you saving for retirement? Because if you're saving for retirement, you can think that far down the road because you're
Exactly.
clearly thinking financially that far down the road. So let's think about your health that far down the road because it doesn't matter how much money you have when you turn 80 if you're sitting in the corner and can't go do anything with it.
Yeah, it's as you said, it's quality of life. And I
Yeah.
think the other kind of bonus points that people perhaps don't really recognize is that not only does it help us to maintain our lean muscle mass, which, by
Mm-hmm.
the way, is so important when it comes to our
Yeah.
brain function. And we know that
Mm-hmm.
the bigger our middle bit gets, the more fat we put on, the more our brain shrinks, which is not
Right.
cool.
Right. Right.
So that's an incentive. If anybody's worried about, Alzheimer's or dementia or any kind of cognitive decline, then
Exactly.
exercise has to be right up there, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And again, when we say that, we're not saying you have to commit an entire hour.
No.
And
And
I
your
think
your
that's
workouts actually tend to be around the sort of what, 10, 15, 30-minute
about
max mark?
15 minutes. Yeah.
15
30
minutes.
minutes max. If you have the 30 minutes, if you don't have the 30 minutes, I show you how to break it down into 15-minute workouts. So,
Or even 3 lots of 10 minutes if
yeah.
needs be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that people will say is that, well, is that long enough for me to get any benefits? And so what's your answer to that?
My answer is something is always better than nothing, right? So
Yeah.
the workouts are meant to help. And, I go by the science. The science shows us that 30 minutes twice a week is enough to maintain.
Yeah.
The workouts are not meant to get you, you know, all buff and ready to be on stage as a bikini competitor. Okay, that's not what these workouts are. These workouts are for everyday women who are just looking to do everyday things with ease and to age without aches, pains, and being the old granny, that can't do anything fun.
Brilliant. And I think the other benefits that people perhaps don't necessarily realize is that if they exercise on a daily, regular basis and they're utilizing their muscles, they're going to be able to balance their blood glucose levels
Oh,
much better, aren't they?
yeah, yeah. And that's so important, particularly with the rise of type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance, which we see a lot in midlife women,
Right. Yeah,
you know?
exactly. And so it just a simple thing like, doing some air squats
Yeah,
after a meal
right.
or going for a walk is
Hmm.
actually going to make a difference to your blood glucose.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, we're not saying go for a 45-minute walk,
No,
5
10
to 10
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and this is the thing is that, and if people, because a lot of people now are kind of into their devices, aren't they, and
Oh,
wearing wearables. Um,
mm-hmm.
and if people have got a CGM or access to a CGM, and I don't
Hmm.
like people to be obsessed with these things,
No.
but it's always quite interesting to see that if you do have a meal and don't go for a walk, and then you have the same meal and you do go for a walk, to actually see for yourself rather than
Right.
taking our word for it,
Yeah.
that actually there is a significant difference. And we know, don't we, that if we've got decent balanced blood glucose levels throughout the day, we're going to sleep better. We're going to
Right.
probably have better mood and function better because we're not getting snappy or hangry.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, how do people get a hold of your wonderful offering? You mentioned you had a PDF and you've got all of your monthly stuff and you've got other things as well. So, how do people find you?
You can go to workwithjenshaver.com, or you can find me on Instagram under Fit with Shaver, um, or also on Facebook as Jen Shaver or Fit with Shaver, either one.
Brilliant. And we'll put all of those links in the show notes, folks. I highly recommend that you just go and see what Jen is offering, because if you are in the slightest bit worried about getting started and a bit nervous, then she is definitely the lady who is going to point you in the right direction. So, Jen, as is the custom on my
Yes.
podcast, I like to finish off by asking my guest, what is the one thing that you would like our listeners to go away with from this episode?
It's the devil is in the details, right? The small little changes. So don't feel like you have to change everything that you are doing overnight. Change one thing, right? Drink more water tomorrow. That's small change, you know? And then after you have mastered that change, what's the next small change you can make? Maybe
Love
it's
it.
get more steps. Maybe it's do squats, 3 days a week. Starting small is where you need to start if you want to see results that last a lifetime.
Brilliant. Absolutely phenomenal, Jen. Thank you so much. So there you go, folks. Stop trying to be a bull at a gate. Try do everything all in
Yeah.
one go. The slower you go, the better the results you will get and the more consistency you have. And not only that, you'll enjoy it
Yeah.
even more. I just want to leave you all, folks, as I always do, by thanking my guests for being here and to remind you that we only have one life, as far as we know, and one body. So look after it because it is looking after you. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Thank you, Jen. Bye bye.
Thank you.